Overly ambitious TBRs. I don't know anything about that. Hello. I am doing a little bit of a reading vlog today. I also am hoping to do something with my TBR jar because I have been getting such great ideas from you on YouTube and then on Instagram for what prompts I should add to my TBR jar and making these cute little paper stars. And so I have a pretty good amount in the jar now, but if there's any that you want me to add, one of my favorite ones was from my friend Alice. She suggested a book that has space pirates in it, which is so specific and unique. I think that one's going to be a bit of a challenge for sure when that one comes up. What I'm going to do is have one fall TBR and then we'll just see how many I read because I have already, I think like 19, maybe 20 books that are just really great fall atmosphere, like they're spooky or they're mystery or suspense. I think there's some historical fiction in there. There's books that just kind of feel like being inside on a rainy day, and that's kind of the vibes that I'm going for to start with. So that is what I'm planning for this video, and I got invited to an exclusive Netflix screening. All the Light We Cannot See is one of my favorite books. I have like some favorite books. I haven't read them more than one time, so I'm a little hesitant to recommend them as like my favorite books, but they still belong on my favorite shelf. So, by the way, if you want me to do a video of just those, like my questionable favorites sometime, I could totally do that if you're interested. This Netflix adaptation, I think it's just like the first part of it that they're screening tonight, so I'm gonna do that. I just started A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. This is technically my second T. Kingfisher, but I DNF'd Nettle and Bone. I was just not connecting with that one. It was just too dark for me. But this one seems to be a little bit more like unsettling, so far at least. And I really like the main character's narrative voice. She's kind of funny. She reacts to what's going on in a normal person way, but she also has some quirky interests. Yeah, she has a really fun sense of humor. So I'm liking this one so far. I'm only 43 pages in, so I'm on chapter 5, but I think that I'm gonna fly through this one. I probably will read this like all today or all this evening. Another book that I just finished today was The Stationery Shop by Marjane Kamali. I have mixed feelings about this one. It was very sad. As far as the historical fiction goes, like getting kind of a look into a different culture. I liked hearing about the Persian cooking. I really just loved the scenes in the kitchen with our main character. It's a sad love story, and you already know at the beginning that like it's going to start sad, have sadness in the middle, and sadness at the end. It's a sad sandwich. It was kind of repetitive in parts, like even within the same chapter, it felt like I was getting the same sentence several times, almost like as a reminder of what was said before it moved forward, which was kind of strange. I overall liked this one, but I didn't love it as much as some people might. I gave it 3 stars. You might really like it, who knows? I might put this in a free library because I feel like this is such a pretty book. A lot of historical fiction fans are like checking out little free libraries. I think I'm going to pick 3 to 4 prompts, and you can see like that's already going to make a little bit of a dent in how many are in here. So if you want to add some more, make sure to comment below. So the teal ones are actually based on prompts from Chantel Reads All Day. She has a TBR card game, and she recently gave it out to her patrons, and I just wrote down some of those. I modified them a little bit, some of them, but those are in here as the teal stars. And then the silver stars are submissions from all of you. And then the purple ones are challenges. So things that are not necessarily a TBR prompt, but they're more of like a bookish challenge, like a 24-hour readathon or something of that nature. All right. My first one is a silver star, so that means that's a prompt that one of you submitted for me. It's kind of like opening a fortune cookie a little bit. All right, so this recommendation was from Olivera Books on Instagram. A book that you've never heard anyone speak about. First one. I'm just gonna draw them all now and then I will record like the ones that I pick for each after. Oh, it's a teal one. I learned that some of the stars are more poofy than others. Some of them are like flat. Oh, I just ripped a piece off, but it doesn't have any letters on it. All right, this one is very short. It has to have a map. Draw number 3. That's another teal. A booktuber's favorite. It's a purple. So you have a pretty good mix of selections here because I have a silver, a 2 teal, and a purple. So this one is going to be some sort of challenge, I believe. This one is random number generator to pick a number book on the New York Times bestseller list. I used the random number generator, and so I ended up getting 37. And I scroll down, and the way that they have it set up is 5 books for each genre category. I ended up landing in children's or middle grade, and the book that I got was Wonder. Different day, different lighting, different outfit, all that good stuff. So I'm just going to be sharing with you which books I picked for each of those TBR jar prompts. Book on the New York Times bestseller list, and for that one I got Wonder. So I will be either listening to the audiobook of this one or getting it on hold from the library. I have already seen the movie adaptation of this book. I did like the movie, it was cute. A book that has a map inside. So I have a confession to make. I've kind of stalled out on reading Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb, but that book has a map at the very beginning of it, right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this book for that prompt. I am only 66 pages in out of 879 or 880, I'm not sure. Ship of Magic is my pick for a book that has a map on the inside, and I'm going to be reading and finishing that one this month in September. For a booktuber's favorite, I am going to be reading Know My Name by Chanel Miller, and I first heard about this one on the Books Unbound podcast. This was one of Raylene's favorite books. I've also seen it show up on the favorites list of several other booktubers since then, so I think this is going to be a great pick. I've heard that the way that Chanel tells her story is just very moving, and her writing is just very beautiful, and I'm excited to give this one a read. The next prompt was from Olivera Books on Instagram, and she suggested a book that I haven't heard anyone talk about. And so for that prompt, I have selected The Big Door Prize by Emma Walsh. And I have not heard about this one at all on BookTube, and I just fell in love with the cover. We're in a small town and a machine is brought into a local business. If you walk into this machine, which is kind of like a photo booth, it will take your DNA and then it will reveal to you who you're truly meant to be in life. And so obviously a lot of people have their hopes up about what this machine will tell them and how it will impact their life. And I just think this is going to be a really entertaining read. It looks like it's going to be fun and lighthearted. Maybe a little unsettling, but not too creepy. So I'm looking forward to reading this one this September. Those are the 4 books that I've picked for my TBR jar picks for this month. First off, I want to talk about A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. This book was just what I was wanting. It is spooky, a little unsettling. I really liked the main character's narrative voice. That was consistent throughout, and I liked the creepiness of bugs. There was a lot of like garden scaries, but without saying too much, I think that you will enjoy this one and it would probably make a great pick for your October TBR. I'm also reading The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence, and this one I am still pretty early into. It is not quite what I expected as far as the setting of the library. I thought that the entire story would take place in the library, but instead we're following a character who is introduced to the setting of the library, and then we jump back and forth location-wise, time-wise, to these other siblings who are currently inside the library. And this is not a sunny and lovely collection of books. It is kind of a labyrinth of towers of books, and there is no way out of it that they can tell. So I'm interested to find out where this one's going. So far, I am enjoying Mark Lawrence's writing. This is the first book that I have read by this author. Some books that I am adding to my fall TBR purely because of the fall vibes. I think I need to start with Autumn by Ali Smith, and I don't think this one needs an explanation. Uprooted is on my TBR. This one I have been looking forward to giving a read since I did a book cover challenge with my husband Jeff, where he described the covers of certain books and I had to guess which one he was talking about. And so he had a fun time talking about all of the intricacies of this cover, and he even gave a little voice to the dragon up here, and I'm looking forward to getting into this one and seeing what the story is actually about. Fugitive Telemetry by Martha Wells. Next, I have just one novella left, and once I've read this one, then I'm gonna be waiting along with everyone else for the next installment, which I believe is due in November. Things in Jars, and I read a little bit of the first chapter, placing where this would be best read during the year, and this one does seem kind of like a fall read to me. At the beginning, it starts with a kidnapping, and there is a small child who has some mysterious abilities who is taken away, and I'm not sure if they're going to be raised, if they're going to be trained, or what's going to happen to them. We are going to be eventually introduced to a main character who is a sleuth, and I think she's going to uncover even more. I think she's going to discover people with even more oddities in this story, which is set in a Victorian London. Speaking of that setting, we have Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke, and this one is apparently very witty, it's Dickensian, and kind of like a classic but with some supernatural flair. I think it's going to be the perfect book to pick up in October. Another spooky one, have had this collection of 3 of Stephen King's books, the 4 Past Midnight stories, on my shelf for too long. It's probably been almost a year, and I was recommended one of the stories by a friend. The first story is The Langoliers, the second story is Secret Window, the third is The Library Policeman, and then the fourth is The Sundog. So I've heard that this is kind of an eclectic assortment, but somehow they are all tied together. The only one I'm familiar with is The Secret Window because of the movie starring Johnny Depp, which I quite enjoyed. This is going to be another one probably for the month of October. And then my last book for October is The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. I have started this book, but I didn't get very far. I just felt like it wasn't the right time to read it. So I decided why not try it out this fall. I was first introduced to this series by Murphy Napier, as it is one of her favorite fantasy book series. This is definitely going to be on the list for October. The last book that I finished this week is The Bookbinder by Pip Williams. This is a sort of follow-up to the book The Dictionary of Lost Words, although if you're interested in reading this one by itself, you could go ahead and do that and then read The Dictionary of Lost Words afterward. But I found the additional context of having read that one was very helpful. This is a historical fiction that is set just at the beginnings of World War II. We are in England, and the story takes place in the same area where the Oxford English Dictionary is being assembled and printed. And our main characters are 2 twin sisters, Peggy and Maud, who both work in the bindery. So their job is to fold and flatten and assemble the different sheets of paper that will then be sewn together and trimmed and covered and made into books. As Peggy folds and works, she likes to pay attention to the words on the page and get as much as she can from them, even though they're not technically allowed to read the books that they are binding. And her sister Maud is kind of just contented in the rhythm of it all. There's an implication that her sister Maud has special needs, and so that's something that makes Peggy and Maud unique. But the fact that they're twins and that they've had a very similar upbringing means that oftentimes Peggy has trouble thinking of herself as an independent person because she has looked after her sister all of these years since their mother's death, and she has desires of her own for an education, for being able to be the person who helps write the books rather than just put them together. In this book, we see her encounter not only circumstances of time, but also people who encourage her on her path to education and following her dreams. I would give it 3.75 or 4 stars. I liked it a little better than The Dictionary of Lost Words, but they're so interconnected in the different characters that they share in the setting that I think that it's kind of hard to rate them separately, honestly. So that's the end of this chaotic reading vlog of little to no continuity and lots of books. So let me know what you thought, and I'm so excited to hear what you've been reading lately, any recommendations you might have for me, especially any ideas for my TBR jar. Please feel free to comment those below. If you don't know what to comment, go ahead and comment a stack of books emoji, just like the one on this cover, and I will see you in another video soon. Bye.